chosen one. Stop for a moment. Do not scroll. Do not rush. Do not dismiss this as just another message. The next 48 hours are not ordinary time passing by. They are compressed. They are intentional. They are carrying prophetic weight. Something has been allowed to reach you right now because heaven knows you are at a sensitive intersection. This is not drama. This is discernment. You may feel it as a quiet pressure rather than a loud alarm, a sense that something matters more than usual. Thoughts returning to unfinished decisions. A heaviness when you try to distract yourself. This is not fear. This is your spirit being nudged awake. When God is about to reposition you, He rarely shouts first. He tightens the atmosphere so you learn to listen. These next 48 hours are about watchfulness. Not paranoia, not panic. Watchfulness. The kind that notices small signals, checks motives, and slows reactions. You are not being rushed by God. You are being invited to stay present. When time feels highlighted, it is because choices made in that window echo further than you expect. Look at your daily life. Imagine a normal workday scenario. You receive a message from a colleague or boss that irritates you. Normally, you would respond quickly, emotionally, maybe defensively. In these next 48 hours, that response carries weight. One impulsive reply could strain a relationship. One restrained, wise response could build unexpected favor. This is how spiritual moments often arrive disguised as ordinary situations. The pressure you sense is not darkness winning ground. It is light exposing crossroads. You are closer to clarity than confusion right now, but clarity requires cooperation. That is why distractions suddenly feel louder. That is why procrastination feels more dangerous than usual. This is not about punishment. It is about timing. Do not misunderstand this moment. God is not standing over you with a stopwatch. He is standing beside you with an outstretched hand. He is saying, "Stay awake with me here." The danger is not failure. The danger is drifting. When people miss divine windows, it is rarely because they rebel loudly. It is because they sleepwalk quietly. There is also hope here, solid, practical hope. If you remain spiritually alert in the next 48 hours, peace will increase instead of decrease. Your decisions will feel cleaner. Your intuition will sharpen. You will notice yourself pausing before reacting, choosing silence instead of argument, prayer instead of impulse. That is what being spiritually armed looks like. Consider a family situation. Maybe there is tension at home, an unresolved disagreement, unspoken resentment, or emotional distance. In these next 48 hours, one humble conversation, one apology, or even one decision to stay calm instead of escalating could shift the atmosphere. God often uses short windows to heal long-standing fractures. But someone must choose humility first. This is why heaven is calling you to watch. Not to withdraw from life, but to move through it consciously. You are not meant to overanalyze every step. You are meant to stay connected. When your spirit stays alert, protection follows naturally. The words of Jesus speak directly into this moment with clarity and authority. The voice of Jesus warns us in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 42. Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. This is not meant to scare you. It is meant to anchor you. Watchfulness is a gift. It keeps you aligned when others drift. It keeps you calm when others panic. It keeps you steady when emotions try to hijack your decisions. Watching means you live intentionally, not reactively. Let me bring this closer to your inner world. Perhaps you have been battling internal fatigue, questioning your direction, your calling. or whether obedience is worth the cost. In the next 48 hours, do not make identity decisions based on temporary emotions. Weariness lies. Watchfulness tells the truth. You do not need a full life plan right now. You need to stay awake to what God is asking today. Here is the direct question you must face honestly. What is one area of your life right now where you know you need to slow down and watch instead of rushing ahead? This is not a message you consume and forget. This is a message you walk with. If this resonates with you, take a moment like this message. Share it with someone who needs spiritual clarity right now, and subscribe so you stay connected. Staying connected is not about a channel. It is about staying awake together. Do not drown this moment in noise. Do not numb it with entertainment. Do not do it, no matter the price. These next 48 hours are not meant to burden you. They are meant to guard you. You are not behind. You are being positioned. At the end of this section, as a simple act of awareness, type 48 in the comments. Not as superstition, but as a declaration that you choose watchfulness over autopilot, alignment over distraction, and presence over panic. Chosen one, the pressure you feel right now did not arrive randomly. It is not just a hard season or one of those weeks. There is a reason resistance has increased at the same time clarity is trying to emerge. Darkness does not waste energy on what carries no consequence. When opposition intensifies suddenly, it is often because something in you is about to shift into position. You may notice it as unexplained fatigue, mental fog, or irritation over small things. Tasks that were once easy now feel heavier. Conversations feel strained. Motivation flickers. This is not proof that you are failing. It is often proof that you are advancing. When you move closer to alignment, friction increases before it decreases. This is a pattern, not a punishment. Spiritual pressure rarely announces itself dramatically. More often, it whispers, "Delay this. You can deal with it later. This isn't that important." Drift does not pull you violently, it numbs you slowly. That is why this moment matters. Not because something bad must happen, but because something good could be quietly postponed if you lose awareness. Consider a financial situation. Maybe you are under pressure because money feels tight, or a bill arrived at the wrong time. You feel tempted to make a quick decision, borrow impulsively, hide stress from your partner, or compromise a value just to relieve the tension. In moments like these, pressure pushes for speed, not wisdom. Discernment asks you to pause. The question is not, how do I escape this stress, but what does alignment look like here? Darkness often presses hardest where discipline is forming. If you have been learning to set boundaries, expect resistance. If you have been choosing honesty, expect temptation. If you have been stepping away from old habits, expect nostalgia to knock loudly. None of this means you are losing ground. It means the ground beneath you is shifting. There is a difference between conviction and condemnation. Condemnation drains you and tells you to give up. Conviction steadies you and tells you to adjust. Pay attention to the tone of the pressure. If it drives you toward clarity, humility, and truth, it is not there to destroy you. It is there to refine you. You are not meant to fight this season emotionally. You are meant to understand it spiritually. The moment you stop interpreting pressure as failure, its power decreases. You are not being crushed. You are being calibrated. Just as muscles resist before they strengthen, your spirit resists before it stabilizes at a higher level. Think about your inner life for a moment. Perhaps you have been wrestling with doubt, not loud disbelief, but quiet questioning. Is this path worth it? Does obedience really matter? Am I making any progress at all? These thoughts often surface right before breakthrough, not after it. Darkness tries to exhaust you so you stop just short of clarity. There is hope embedded here. Pressure exposes what needs reinforcement. If impatience is surfacing, patience is being built. If fear is rising, courage is being activated. If confusion is present, discernment is near. You are not surrounded by darkness, you are being outlined by light. And contrast always increases before visibility sharpens. The scriptures speak clearly about moments like this. It was proclaimed in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. Notice what is named and what is not. Fear is identified as foreign. Power, love, and a sound mind are identified as native to you. That means when fear increases, something unnatural is trying to move in. You do not need to accept it as your own. You are allowed to recognize it, resist it, and return to clarity. A sound mind does not mean a mind without questions. It means a mind that does not panic when answers take time. Power does not always look loud. Sometimes it looks like restraint. Love does not always feel emotional. Sometimes it looks like choosing what is right when it costs you comfort. Here is where this becomes personal. Are you mistaking pressure for a sign to quit, when it may actually be a sign to steady yourself? This season is not asking you to become harder. It is asking you to become clearer. Clear about what you will no longer tolerate. Clear about where you will not rush. Clear about whose voice you trust when pressure speaks. When clarity arrives, pressure loses its leverage. You are not behind. You are not weak. You are not failing. You are standing in a moment where discernment matters more than speed. Darkness presses because time is short, not yours, but its influence. Light does not hurry. It reveals. Stay grounded. Stay aware. Let pressure teach you where strength is forming, not where weakness lives. This is not the moment you lose ground. This is the moment you learn how to stand without shaking. Before David ever stood in front of Goliath, he stood alone in fields no one applauded. No audience, no armor, no encouragement speeches, just sheep, silence, and responsibility. While others were training where they could be seen, David was being shaped where no one was watching. The anointing on his life did not immediately change his position, it deepened his preparation. This is where many people misunderstand how God works. They expect calling to come with visibility. God often chooses hiddenness first. David's preparation did not look spiritual from the outside. It looked repetitive, quiet, ordinary. He showed up every day to guard what belonged to someone else. He learned to respond when danger interrupted routine. Lions and bears did not appear as epic moments. They appeared as problems during normal workdays. And David acted not because he was trying to prove something, but because faithfulness had already been formed in him. By the time Goliath appeared, David was not discovering courage. He was revealing what had been built in silence. The battlefield did not create his confidence. It exposed it. This is important for you to understand right now. If your life feels unseen, under-celebrated, or overlooked, it does not mean nothing is happening. It often means everything that matters is happening beneath the surface. Look at your daily life. Maybe your routine feels small, showing up to the same job, handling responsibilities that seem unglamorous, carrying weight without recognition. You're doing the right thing while others take shortcuts and move ahead faster. This is not wasted effort. This is training. Integrity practiced in ordinary moments becomes authority in extraordinary ones. David learned accuracy before he needed boldness. He learned focus before he needed speed. He learned restraint before he needed confidence. When the giant finally stood before him, David did not panic or negotiate his worth. He recognized the moment because preparation had already shaped his instincts. He didn't borrow armor that didn't fit because he trusted what had been forged in private. This season of your life may feel quiet, but quiet does not mean weak. Silence is often where strength concentrates. You are learning how to regulate your emotions, how to stay grounded under pressure, how to act without needing approval. These lessons do not trend, they do not get applauded, but they determine whether you stand or fold when pressure increases. Consider a family situation. Maybe you are the one holding things together, choosing patience instead of reacting, choosing peace instead of proving a point. It feels unnoticed. Sometimes it feels unfair. But this is leadership training. Authority is not learned by dominating situations, it is learned by carrying responsibility without resentment. What you are practicing now will matter when the stakes are higher. The scriptures remind us of this hidden preparation. The Word of God declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 78, verse 72, "And David shepherded them with integrity of heart. With skillful hands he led them." Notice the order. Integrity of heart comes before skillful leadership. Who you are becoming internally matters more than what you will eventually do publicly. God is not rushing you into visibility. He is stabilizing you so visibility does not collapse you later. Here is what many people miss. Silence is not abandonment, it is attention. God is focused on you right now. He is shaping your reflexes, your discernment, your endurance. You are learning how to stand without external validation. That ability will protect you when applause finally arrives, and it will. David did not chase the battlefield. He stayed faithful to the field. The battlefield came to him at the right time. When it did, David did not need extra preparation. The moment aligned with who he had already become. That is how divine timing works. You do not force doors open. You grow steady enough to walk through them when they open naturally. Let this settle in your spirit. Are you honoring this season of preparation, or are you resenting it because no one sees it yet? If this speaks to you, write this simple declaration in the comments: prepared in silence. Not because anyone else understands your season, but because you do. By writing it, you are acknowledging that what feels quiet right now is not empty. It is intentional. It is strengthening you for a moment that will require more stability than noise. You are closer than you think. What looks like a field today may become a battlefield tomorrow, but you will not arrive untrained. You will arrive grounded, clear, and equipped, like David. You will not need borrowed armor or borrowed confidence. You will move with what has already been mastered in secret. Stay faithful in the unseen places. They are shaping the strength you will soon rely on. It means you accept that your growth has been happening quietly through discipline, restraint, and faithfulness. No shortcuts, no applause. By writing it, you acknowledge that God has been training you privately for responsibilities you have not yet seen. There comes a moment when preparation stops feeling quiet and starts feeling costly. Not because anything dramatic happens on the outside, but because something firm begins to rise on the inside. This is the moment when obedience is no longer an idea, it becomes a choice you must live with. Tangible, personal, slightly uncomfortable. You begin to sense that staying aligned will ask you to loosen your grip on habits, reactions, or relationships that once felt harmless. This is where many people pause, not because they lack faith, but because alignment exposes attachment. It touches places you assumed were neutral. You may notice it in your speech, choosing restraint when sarcasm would earn laughter. You may feel it in your schedule, realizing that rest, prayer, or reflection require saying no to something productive. These are not punishments. They are invitations to maturity. Picture an ordinary moment. You are walking through a city street at dusk. Two paths appear, one brightly lit, crowded, full of movement and noise, the other quieter, narrower, less obvious. No sign forces you either way. Both are open. One promises ease, the other promises direction. Alignment often looks like choosing the quieter path when no one is watching, trusting that light will meet you further ahead. That is why this season feels deliberate. You are not being pushed into growth. You are being invited into it. God does not coerce alignment. He offers it. The offer is gentle, but the transformation is deep. What you choose now will shape not just outcomes, but the kind of person you become. And who you become determines what you can safely carry later. You may feel this tension in relationships. Perhaps there is a connection that is not openly destructive, but subtly draining. Conversations leave you scattered instead of strengthened. Values blur instead of sharpen. Alignment sometimes means stepping back without bitterness, choosing clarity without accusation. That kind of decision feels lonely at first, but it creates room. Room for peace, room for growth, room for the right connections to emerge. This is where courage takes a quieter form. Not confrontation, consistency. Choosing the same values repeatedly, even when no one notices. Choosing the long view when shortcuts are available. Wide paths require no discipline. Narrow ones shape discernment. And discernment protects you from carrying things you were never meant to hold. The scriptures speak to this choice with clarity and calm authority, as Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 13. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. This is not spoken to frighten you, it is spoken to steady you. The narrow gate is not cruel, it is precise. It filters distraction. It protects focus. It leads to wholeness, not fragmentation. Wavering drains energy. Choosing brings rest. Consider your financial life. Maybe you feel pressure to make decisions driven by fear, spending to soothe stress, withholding generosity to feel secure, or chasing fast solutions that ignore long-term consequences. Alignment invites a different posture, not recklessness, wisdom. Trust that does not panic when numbers fluctuate. This kind of faith builds stability slowly, but it lasts. Hope becomes practical here. Not the kind that waits passively, but the kind that acts faithfully without immediate proof. You may not see results right away, but you will feel something shift internally. Decisions feel cleaner. Regret loosens its grip. That inner alignment is evidence that you are walking in the right direction, even if the road remains quiet. There is beauty in choosing freely. Voluntary devotion carries a different weight than obligation, like tending a lamp in a dark room, not to impress anyone, but to ensure the flame does not go out. What you guard in private becomes light others rely on later. If this message resonates, imagine it like leaving a footprint on a path, not to prove you were here, but to remember a moment when you chose intention over drift. Some footprints are shared. Some quietly guide those who come after. Some remain unseen. All of them matter. If these words feel like a lamp you didn't know you needed, you don't have to keep it to yourself. Sometimes light is meant to be passed hand to hand, not hoarded. If you sense it, let it travel quietly, intentionally. And if this place feels like a path worth walking again, you are welcome to stay near the fire, returning whenever clarity is needed. No pressure, just presence. This season is not about proving devotion, it is about deepening alignment. You are learning that boundaries do not limit you, they free you. That focus simplifies life, that choosing once can quiet 1,000 internal arguments. Ask yourself honestly, where am I still standing between two paths? Not because I lack understanding, but because I fear the cost of choosing the narrower one. You are not being rushed. You are being invited into an integrated life where belief and action move together, where faith is lived rather than explained. This is not a demand. It is a door, gently open. You choose whether to step through. Chosen one. Now the message moves from understanding to practice. Not theory, not inspiration alone. This is where alignment becomes something you can touch, something you can live out in ordinary hours. Spiritual awareness is only powerful when it translates into daily choices. That is why this section is about slowing down just enough to see clearly and acting before momentum pulls you back into autopilot. The first instruction is simple, but not easy. Pause and notice. Most people do not make poor decisions because they lack information. They make them because they never pause long enough to register what is happening inside them. Pause does not mean withdraw from life. It means creating a small space between impulse and action. A breath before replying. A moment before agreeing. A check-in before committing. Think about a work situation. An unexpected request lands on your desk late in the day. Your instinct is to say yes immediately to avoid conflict, to look reliable, to keep peace. But pause for 10 seconds. Notice what rises in you. Tightness, resentment, fear of disappointing someone, that information matters. Awareness reveals what is driving your decisions. When you pause, you regain choice. The second instruction is quieter, deeper. Reflect on the silent cost. Every decision carries a price, even the ones that feel neutral. Some costs are obvious: money, time, energy. Others are subtle: peace, integrity, clarity, self-respect. These silent costs accumulate slowly, which is why they are dangerous when ignored. Consider a financial habit. Perhaps you often spend small amounts impulsively to cope with stress. Each purchase feels harmless. But over time, the cost is not just money, it is anxiety, lack of control, and delayed freedom. Reflecting on cost is not about guilt. It is about honesty. Ask yourself, if I keep choosing this way, what will it quietly take from me 6 months from now? This reflection also applies to relationships. Maybe you stay silent to avoid tension, but the cost is emotional distance and unresolved hurt. Or you over-explain yourself constantly, and the cost is exhaustion and self-doubt. When you reflect on cost, you stop asking, "Can I do this?" and start asking, "What will this shape me into?" The third instruction brings everything together: one immediate step. Not a grand plan, not a total life overhaul. One small, aligned action taken now. Delay weakens clarity. Immediate steps anchor it. For example, if you realize you need more peace, your step might be turning off notifications for 1 hour tonight. If you recognize financial fear, your step might be reviewing one account instead of avoiding it. If relational clarity is needed, your step might be writing but not sending a message that names your truth. Small steps interrupt old patterns. This matters because obedience grows through motion, not intention. Momentum favors action. When you take one aligned step, your nervous system settles. Your mind clears. You feel less fragmented. That is how peace begins, not dramatically, but steadily. The scriptures affirm this kind of practical wisdom. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 26. Give careful thought to the paths for your feet and be steadfast in all your ways. Notice the language. Careful thought, paths, feet. This is grounded spirituality. It speaks to movement, direction, and attention. You are not asked to sprint blindly. You are asked to watch where you place your next step. Let this land in everyday life. Tonight, before sleeping, pause and notice what drained you most today. Reflect on the cost of repeating it tomorrow. Then choose one immediate adjustment earlier. Rest, clearer boundaries, a different response. This is how transformation becomes sustainable. Here is a direct question for you. Where have you been reacting quickly, when a pause could change everything? This process is not about becoming rigid or overly cautious. It is about becoming intentional. Intentional people are harder to manipulate, harder to rush, and harder to derail. When you slow your reactions, you speed up your alignment, as a sign of commitment to practice, not perfection. Write 17 in the comments. This number represents a pause long enough to notice, a reflection deep enough to count the cost, and a step small enough to take immediately. By writing it, you are choosing awareness over impulse, direction over drift. You are not trying to control the future. You are learning how to steward the present, and the present, when handled with care, shapes everything that follows. The number 17 is not symbolic magic. It represents interruption, a deliberate break in automatic behavior. By choosing it, you acknowledge your willingness to slow down long enough to notice what usually goes unchecked, and to interrupt patterns that quietly shape your days. Writing 17 also signals readiness for action. Not drastic change, but one grounded step taken immediately. It marks the moment you move from awareness into practice, where clarity stops being an idea and becomes a lived decision in real, ordinary life. What comes after awareness and action is not relief. It is resistance. This is the part many people misunderstand. They expect that once they pause, reflect, and take a small aligned step, everything will immediately become easier. Sometimes it does. Often it does not. Instead, life tests whether your clarity is temporary or anchored. This is the stage where you learn how to stand. Standing does not look dramatic. It looks quiet. It looks like continuing to do the right thing when the emotional reward fades. It looks like holding a boundary when the guilt arrives later. It looks like not explaining yourself to people who benefited from your confusion. This is not punishment. This is reinforcement. Protection is not always about being shielded from difficulty. Often, protection is about being stabilized within it. When you are internally anchored, external pressure loses its power to move you. That is what is being formed now, a steadiness that does not depend on circumstances cooperating. Think about your work life again. Perhaps after choosing to slow down and be intentional, you notice subtle pushback. People may test your limits, requests may increase, expectations may quietly shift. This is where standing matters. Not aggressively, not defensively, simply consistently. Calm repetition teaches others how to treat you better than confrontation ever will. There is also internal resistance. Old habits do not disappear politely. Your mind may try to convince you that clarity was an overreaction, that rest was laziness, that boundaries were selfish. This is not truth, it is adjustment, discomfort. When systems change, they push back before they settle. Standing means you do not negotiate with every thought. You observe them without obeying them. You let emotions pass without giving them the steering wheel. Emotional maturity is not emotional numbness. It is emotional leadership. Consider a financial example. You decide to be more intentional, less impulsive, more mindful. The next week, an unexpected expense appears. Anxiety rises. The temptation to abandon discipline shows up immediately. Standing means you do not panic. You respond thoughtfully. You adjust without collapsing into old patterns. That response builds confidence that no amount of budgeting advice ever could. Standing also involves discernment about people. Not everyone will understand your shifts. Some will feel unsettled when you stop over-explaining, over-giving, or over-accommodating. Silence may replace affirmation. Distance may replace familiarity. This does not mean you are wrong. It means dynamics are recalibrating. Protection often looks like discernment about access. Who gets your energy? Who hears your concerns? Who influences your decisions? Guarding your inner world is not isolation. It is stewardship. You cannot stand firmly if everyone has equal access to your foundation. There is a particular kind of fatigue that comes during this stage. Not burnout, but weight. The weight of responsibility for your own clarity. It is easier to drift than to stand. Drift requires nothing. Standing requires intention. But intention, once strengthened, becomes stability, The scriptures speak directly to this kind of endurance. The Apostle Paul wrote in the letter to the Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 13, "Therefore put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything, to stand." Notice the emphasis. Stand. And after everything, stand. This is not about advancing aggressively. It is about not being moved backward. There are seasons where progress looks like remaining upright when pressure increases. That is not stagnation. That is strength. Standing protects what you have already gained. It keeps clarity from eroding. It prevents small compromises from reopening old doors. Every time you choose not to react impulsively, not to self-abandon, not to overcorrect, you reinforce the structure being built within you. This is where peace deepens, not because life is calm, but because you are anchored. Anchors do not remove waves. They prevent drift. When storms come, anchored people move less even though the water moves the same. Let this apply to your inner dialogue. When self-doubt rises, standing means you do not spiral into self-criticism. You acknowledge uncertainty without surrendering confidence. You remind yourself that steadiness is learned through repetition, not perfection. You are not being asked to fight constantly. You are being asked to remain consistent. Consistency is quieter than intensity, but far more powerful. Intensity burns fast. Consistency carries far. This stage is not glamorous. It will not be celebrated publicly, but it is decisive. Many people begin well. Fewer people stand well. Standing is what determines whether growth becomes permanent or temporary. You are learning how to remain yourself under pressure. That skill will serve you in every area of life: work, family, finances, relationships. When you can stand without hardening, without withdrawing, without compromising, you become trustworthy both to others and to yourself. Do not underestimate what is being built here. You are not merely surviving pressure. You are being stabilized by it, and what is stabilized can be trusted with more. There is a quiet moment that comes after standing, a moment when you realize you are no longer bracing yourself. You are upright, but not tense, alert, but not anxious. This is the moment when clarity settles into confidence. Not the loud kind that announces itself, but the steady kind that changes how you walk into rooms, how you speak, how you decide without needing permission. You are not the same person who began this journey. Something has shifted. Your reactions are slower. Your discernment is sharper. Your inner world is less crowded. This is what happens when awareness, action, and endurance begin to weave together. You are no longer just resisting drift, you are carrying direction. Direction does not mean every answer is clear. It means you trust the ground beneath your feet even when the horizon is still forming. You no longer panic when life feels quiet, and you no longer chase noise to feel alive. You understand now that silence can be full, and movement can be unnecessary. Think about your future not as a distant fantasy, but as something already being shaped by how you live today. In your work, you are becoming someone others rely on not because you are loud, but because you are steady. In your finances, you are learning patience that outlasts impulse. In your relationships, you are choosing presence over performance. These are not small victories. They are foundations. There is also a deeper confidence forming the confidence that you are not walking alone. Not because everything goes your way, but because you recognize guidance when it comes. Sometimes it arrives as restraint, sometimes as conviction, sometimes as peace that makes no logical sense. You are learning to recognize it. The scriptures speak of this kind of grounded hope. The ancient words recorded in Romans chapter 15, verse 13, still echo today. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Overflow is not about excess. It is about sufficiency that spills outward. When you are filled with peace, you stop demanding it from others. When hope is steady within you, fear loses its leverage. This is the posture you are stepping into now, not striving, but trust. This trust changes how you show up in ordinary moments. When plans shift unexpectedly, you adapt instead of collapse. When people misunderstand you, you respond without over-defending. When uncertainty appears, you remain grounded. This is not emotional detachment, it is emotional maturity. There is also an invitation here not spoken loudly, but felt deeply. An invitation to remain connected to this kind of clarity, not as a rule, but as a rhythm. Like returning to a place where your breathing slows naturally. Like revisiting a journal that reminds you who you are when life tries to rush you. If these words have felt like a compass rather than a command, let that matter. Compasses do not force direction, they reveal it. Some people keep them close. Some pass them on to others walking similar terrain. Some return to them when the landscape changes. All of those responses are beautiful because they are chosen, not demanded. There is a gentle way of marking moments that matter, like placing a bookmark in a meaningful chapter, not to rush ahead, but to remember where something shifted. If this message felt like a hand steadying your shoulder at the right moment, you're free to acknowledge it quietly. Some moments deserve a simple nod of recognition. And if these words feel like something that could help another traveler stay oriented, let them be passed along like a map folded with care. If this space feels like a place you may want to return to when the road feels unclear, you're welcome to remain nearby, no obligation, just a shared direction. Let me ask you something important. What part of your life already feels lighter because you chose to stay aware instead of drifting? As a reflection of that shift, write 77 in the comments, not as a ritual, but as recognition. A recognition that you are no longer asleep to your own life, that you are choosing alignment over autopilot, steadiness over noise, trust over fear. 77 marks completion and continuation, the end of one way of moving and the beginning of another. You are not waiting for permission anymore. You are walking with intention, and intention, when carried gently, becomes purpose. If this path has felt meaningful, let it remain available to you, shared when it feels right. Return to when clarity is needed, stayed with when the journey continues. Some fires are meant to be gathered around, not consumed in one moment. You are not just spiritually armed, you are spiritually anchored, and anchored people become quiet signals of hope in uncertain places. As we come to the end, there is no dramatic closing, no sharp command, no pressure to respond a certain way. What matters most has already happened quietly. Something inside you noticed itself. That moment is enough. If these words were useful, you are free to let them travel further than this space. Sometimes insight is like water drawn from a well. It is meant to be carried to someone else who is thirsty. Not explained, not forced, just offered. You do not have to convince anyone. You only pass along what helped you stand a little steadier. And if this message did not fully resonate, that is also okay. Not every word is meant to land. You are not required to take everything with you. Simply keep the one sentence, one image, or one feeling that stirred something honest inside you. That alone can be enough to shift a day, a conversation, or a decision you have been avoiding. Growth does not always announce itself with certainty. Sometimes it shows up as a subtle pause before reacting. Sometimes as a question you can no longer ignore. Sometimes as a quiet strength that surprises you later. Trust that whatever stayed with you did so for a reason. There is no need to rush forward from here. Let what resonated settle naturally into your life. Let it meet you at work, in silence, in relationships, in choices that seem small but matter more than you realize. Meaning does not fade when it is real, it integrates. You are not required to remember every word. You are only invited to remember yourself more clearly. If you return to this message again someday, let it be because you chose to, not because you felt obligated. And if you never do, let what served you continue to serve you quietly without credit. That is enough.